Hello and welcome. Today I will be paraphrasing, summarizing, and sharing for the February 16th Al-Anon readings in Courage to Change and a Little Time for Myself. We'll begin with the Serenity Prayer and 3 mindful breaths. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. We'll read the passage first. The question of the day is, what can I do to release my resentments today? The passage begins with, and the person who wrote this passage was an alcoholic who got sober in AA, but their family understood AA to be a cult and ostracized this person. This person finally made their way to Al-Anon and found the love and support that they needed. And then someone important to them, when they were 6 months in their Al-Anon program, someone who had an impact on them passed away. And this person found out that the person who had passed away had forgiven people who did terrible things to them, and that helped this person to forgive their family, and they felt relief. Today's reminder, it says, detachment and love is the key to releasing us from the prison of resentment. And the quote is from Hope for Today. And it says we can release feelings of disappointment, bitterness, and resentment to our higher power, and then we can be free. What can I do to release my resentments today? I think that working the steps helps to work through, to understand what I have resentments for. Talking with my sponsor, reading Al-Anon conference-approved literature, talking to people within the program, excuse me, attending meetings regularly, all those things, journaling, praying, meditating, all those things help me determine what I have resentments for, and then I can pray for help releasing them. And the other thing I do, which isn't strictly Al-Anon, but, and I've mentioned her before, is Byron Katie. She has this inquiry process, the 4 questions. Is it true? How can I know that it's true? How do I feel when I think it's true? And what am I without that thought? And then you turn it around. And it's a whole book. I think it's called Accepting What Is. She's not affiliated with Al-Anon, but what she writes about and what she talks about is Al-Anon-esque, and I love her. So that helps me release my resentments too, because sometimes when I realize I have a resentment and I really think about it and question it, I realize that it's usually based on an expectation of mine or a false perception or some kind of misunderstanding on my part. For me personally. And I'm thinking of a couple of other times when it just came down to that the person that I was feeling some negative feelings towards, I just came to the realization that that person was doing the best they could and that they weren't intentionally trying to harm me. And that works. And if the thought ever comes up or the feelings ever come up, when I go through that process, I always come to the same conclusion, that that person was doing the best they could. They weren't intentionally trying to hurt me. They had their own stuff, and that's how it came out. So I think that's how I'm releasing my resentments today. I think all those different avenues help me to release resentments. Some are easy and some are much more like ingrained, and I just need to work, like practice at it, and it improves. In my experience, it improves. Excuse me for sniffling. I'm going to take a minute to read this over. Oh, that's beautiful. Excuse my sniffling. The sneezes did it. The passage begins with likening alcoholism to a tornado. All the different things that are caught up in the storm. All kinds of abuse, illness, debt, prison, infidelity, and death. And with that can come embarrassment and shame. But in Al-Anon, we realize we're only as sick as our secrets. And we find that in the program, we can find someone who will listen to us and who understands us. That's usually our sponsor. It doesn't say that in here, but to me, that's who that person is. We are all members of Al-Anon who have been in similar situations and are willing to listen. Before I had a sponsor, I did talk to other Al-Anon members about things that I felt comfortable with, but mostly I used a therapist because I had such immense shame and I was scared that I would be rejected. And the therapist helped me to feel strong enough to ask someone to be my sponsor, and then my sponsor just accepted me with such love and still does to this day. Such a huge relief, something I'm so grateful for. And today's reminder tells us that when we want to isolate, that's usually when we need to reach out the most. We can remember that our higher power speaks through other people, and we never have to be alone. We never have to face anything alone. Once well, it's not just because of Al-Anon. We're never alone with our higher power, but in Al-Anon, we have access to so many people who will help us and listen and who understand. The quote is from In All Our Affairs. With our program, we feel like we can face things that happen to us in our lives and learn from them with the help of our higher power. That's so true. And I can't say that I live without fear, but I try very hard to, when I realize that I'm thinking fearfully, I try to turn it over to love and trust rather than fear and doubt. Love and trust rather than fear and doubt. That's one of the things that I repeat in my head a lot. Love and trust rather than fear and doubt. And when I remember that, that usually reminds me to thank my higher power, ask my higher power for help, thank my higher power for guidance, and just calm down a little bit, because ultimately, all the things that I can think about could happen to me, could happen to anybody. Nobody knows what's going to happen, but we can all rest in the fact that we will do the best we can with what we have. If something happens, like nothing's even happening. Well, that's not true. My hip really hurts. I'm going to call the doctor tomorrow. I don't know if I said this already, but my partner wants me to call the doctor tomorrow. Tomorrow is Monday. And my partner very rarely suggests that I call the doctor. I'm usually the one who will call the doctor before my partner thinks that it's time for me to go. But this time he said, I think you should go. So I'm going to go and hopefully start the process of figuring out what's going on with my hip and the numbness between my hip and my knee. And it's not just numbness anymore. Now it's like it sometimes aches too. So take it day by day, and I'll do the best that I can with what I've got. And I have so much to be grateful for. So we'll close out with the Serenity Prayer and 3 mindful breaths. Here we go. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Sending you love. Take care.